Welcome to Bavaria in HO scale. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do a locomotive service slash cleaning station. Because if you're running trains, you're going to have to clean them, grease up the gears and all those kind of things. So I'm going to show you how to do that. The first thing we're going to need is a sponge. And you can find this one at hardware stores, Home Depot, Rona, Lowe's, any of those. And you got to go to the tile where they're selling the tiles, because this is what the tile setters use. Once they put in the grout, then you're gonna have to wash the whole floor basically with this sponge. So there is another kind you can get, which is this one. This is a scrubbing sponge. You can see it's got a little bit of scrubbing surface on it on one side, but either one is perfectly fine. So whichever they have available, that's good. So just get one of these, and that's the first thing. And then we're gonna have to cut this with a hot wire cutter. So the sponge that I just cut in half, it's also marked this way because now we're gonna cut it in half this way. So let's do that. Now we got the two half pieces. So I got this 1/2 inch plywood that I cut out in this weird shape. I don't even know why I did that, because quite frankly, if you just cut it 7 inches wide and the overall length is 13 inches, and really that's all you need. So 13 by 7 inches, and 7-inch thick plywood, or 3/4 inch would work as well. But don't get anything thinner, like you don't want it too thin so it bends or warps or anything like that. So yeah, just 1/2 inch plywood at 7 by 13 inches, and then you don't have to do these extra cutouts on it. So we still need another piece of plywood, just a little strip like this. This is also 1/2 inch, and it's 1.5 inches wide. And this is gonna go actually right here. You're gonna have to glue it here, but the height we have to determine a little bit later. So we still have to cut that a little shorter. So what we're trying to build here is, we got this sponge that we cut the very first time. Cut it in half, and that's just gonna go right here. We're just gonna have to glue it. And then the other two pieces that we cut, it's gonna be goes on top, just like that. And then your locomotive, obviously, gonna go in there upside down, kind of like that. But as you can see, these two walls are gonna be a little too high, right? Because you want to get in there with your fingers and tweezers and all that. So we're probably gonna have to cut this about half. So we're gonna do that right now. Okay, so we're gonna glue this sponge in place. I got using my hot glue gun, it's set to high. So we're gonna quickly just all over put this in place. Perfect. And then put this one on there for a couple of seconds. I like working with this ballast. I used it so many times. Nice and heavy and flat. So now that this is glued in place, yeah, it looks pretty good. So you got these two strips, and of course you want your locomotive in the middle. So we're gonna have to place that in the middle, upside down, and then we do the outside wall first. And you want the two side walls pretty tight, like snug. Like your locomotive shouldn't be moving in there once you put your locomotive in there, so it shouldn't wobble or anything like that. So what you're gonna do is, that should be good right there. So take my locomotive out of there. this is where it's gonna go. Now I'm gonna make a marking. Okay, and the hot glue gun. Okay, there, let's put some pressure on it. Okay, so the locomotive goes back in here, and then this, the one towards me, actually, see, I just flipped this on the side so it's lower than the back one, so you got more room with your fingers or tweezers or whatever you be using. So let's glue this one in just like that. So I leave my locomotive in there, and okay, I gotta reload my hot glue gun first. Okay, so now we are going to glue this piece here. I'm just gonna draw a line there like that, and then I'll take this one out of there, and I'm gonna put the hot glue right on the inside of the line. Just want to make sure that I don't put any on my locomotive, so I want that. Okay, I reloaded my hot glue gun. There, throw this one back there, make sure it's nice and tight against the locomotive. Put a little pressure on it. Okay, and that should be good. So there, and then you just put your locomotive back in there whenever you need it. See, it's not moving, and should be pretty good to work at it. But we're not done yet. Okay, so we got this piece of strip of wood, and now we're gonna determine the height. So if I place it here where it goes, you wanna cut this at a little bit higher than the top of the wheel, so maybe a 1/4 inch or maybe 3/8 higher. So I'm just gonna make a mark here, so right about there. Okay, okay, so now I'm gonna cut this piece of wood with my little table saw. So the next thing we're gonna need is a piece of plastic. Now it doesn't have to be a clear plastic, but this is what I had. So this is about 2.5 to 3 millimeter thick. You don't want anything thinner, because if it's easily bendable, then it's not gonna work. So it's gotta be a solid piece. So 2.5, 3 millimeter, and I cut this one at 40 millimeter long and 30 millimeter wide, because it's gonna go on top of this here. So it's a little bit less than the plywood, but we're gonna have to put it there with a hinge, which is our next piece here that we're gonna need. It comes in a little package like this from the hardware store, a pair of hinges with the screws, and we're only gonna use one of them with the 4 screws. And the other thing is that we need is one of these brass strip, and this is 0.5 millimeter thin, and I believe about 5 or 6 millimeter wide. And we're gonna cut a couple of pieces out of this strip, so 1 strip is plenty. So there is one more thing we're gonna need, and that's a strip of wood like this, and this is 60 centimeters long, 5 millimeter thick, and I think the height is 12 millimeter. And if I turn this one around, we're gonna put a little wall up here all the way around, so 2 longer pieces go there and a couple of short ones. So basically, when you work on your locomotive and you take off all those little parts, you can put it inside here and you're not gonna lose them. You're not gonna roll off your table, anything like that. So this is what we're doing right now. Okay, so now all we gotta do is just glue it in place, and I'm using this wood glue, your ordinary wood glue. So let's do that. I got this bag of all kinds of rubber bands in there in different sizes, and I just chose one that's about the right size, and I'm gonna put it right on this side all around, and this should keep it nice and tight till it dries, because this glue takes about half an hour to dry. And then we're gonna put some weight on it. Okay, so let's put this one on there. Yeah, there we go. And that should be good. I just decided to paint it white so you can, find those little tiny parts easier. Usually they are totally different color, so you can put it on a couple of coats maybe. So the next step is you're gonna take this hinge. You can see it. Okay, you can't really. Okay, there it is. So this is how the hinge goes, and then we got the piece of plastic that's gonna go sit on top of the hinge. Okay, just like that, and we're gonna put a couple of screws from the bottom up. Okay, so we have to mark it, and then just gonna drill a pilot hole and then put a couple of very tiny screws from the bottom through the hinge and to the plastic. So let's do that. So the next step is I'll mount this piece of wood here, and then we got the plastic with the hinge goes on top of this piece of wood. But this plastic, and this is very important, that it lines up with your locomotive. As you have the locomotive in here, this plastic has to line up. So I'm off a little bit. So the best way to do this, get this part done first, glue this in place, mount this plastic on it and everything, and then put these two sponges right exactly the middle, so your locomotive is going to end up like underneath, this plastic, right? Or line up with the plastic. So let's do that. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of wood glue on the end here. That should be enough. And then I'm gonna place this at the end. And then I'm gonna put some weight on it. I'm gonna flip this over. Okay, and that should be enough pressure on it, so it's gonna be a nice solid bond. So I got this marked at 7 centimeter, that brass strip, and we need to cut 2 pieces. Okay, so let's cut this one where it's marked. That's one. Okay, that's two. So now we're gonna have to mark both these brass strips. So I just put it right under those two holes. Okay. And now the other one over here. Okay. Now we're gonna drill that hole. So I'm just gonna fold this over, and then I'm gonna screw this plate onto this hole. But I'm just using one screw here. Because we need the other hole for the wire to feed through. So this is nice and tight. Now we do the other one. Okay. And I fold it back. You should be right over your wheels, those two plates. And now what I'm doing, I'm gonna bend this down. Hopefully you can see it. And the other, and then I'm gonna bend it back. And I'm gonna do the other one. And then you have to do some fine adjustments. Just that it's gonna be close to the wheels. Maybe a little bit more down. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna feed this through. One wire goes through there. The other one there. I'm gonna bend this one back a little bit. So they soldered to the brass strip, and now we're just gonna feed this wire, leave a little bit of loop on this so it's not tight for the movement, but it should be, you don't need too much. And then just with the hot glue gun we're gonna glue this all the way around, and then we're gonna put an alligator clip on the other end so you can just attach it to your two rails to get the power into those two brass strips. And with this elastic band we're gonna pull this one down so there's pressure onto the wheels, and then you can select your locomotive with your controller and you know, get the speed going so the wheels start spinning, and then you can clean your wheels, or you know, if you gotta grease them up you gotta take it apart. And so that's the idea, but let's finish this first. So I'm gonna put on this band, put it into that V-notch that we filed off. I should have put this one in first. Hold on. I'm just gonna feed this through. Make sure this cable is long enough to reach your track on your layout. And so this goes underneath like that, and then it should be into that V-notch, and also those screws are kind of holding it in place, and it's putting pressure, so these two plates or brass plates are touching your wheels, and there is a little bit of pressure on it too. And then the other end of this cable, like I said, these two wires, just gonna solder a couple of alligator clips on it, and then you can attach it to your two rails, and then select your locomotive, whichever you have here, and then have the speed halfway or so the wheels are spinning, and then you can clean your wheels with a Q-tip. You put in a little bit of alcohol or whatever you use to get those dirt off. And so that's basically it. That's the cleaning station or servicing station, and if you're gonna take off all those little parts, you can put them all inside here. So I got a couple of these alligator clips. I had to go to the store to get some, and you're gonna solder the wire onto it. So I got those two alligator clips in place, and the locomotive is in place, and this is my controller. So I already selected the locomotive, and if I start to accelerate, you can hear it already, but you can see all the wheels are spinning. So you can just grab a Q-tip, alcohol, dip it in there a little bit, and then just hold it to the wheel, and it should take off all the dirt. And if it wouldn't be working, then this is probably the reason, because you don't have enough pressure onto the wheels. So then you just gotta bend it a little bit more with a pair of pliers till you got enough pressure on it, and it should work. So I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you got any questions, just leave it in the comment below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Take care, and see you guys with the next video. Bye.